Jeff Wilson started covering the Texas Rangers in 2008, though he'll never forget 2021. Out on his own, he decided it was time to do a podcast, but his wheels were spinning until a nerd came along. There's no going back now. Welcome to the Texas Rangers Baseball Podcast. Here's your host, Jeff Wilson, and the recliner nerd himself, John Moore.
All right, everybody, welcome once again to the Texas Rangers Baseball Podcast. This is episode 11, and once again, you pulled it off, man. We're going to have Texas Rangers General Manager Chris Young, who's going to join us here in a little bit. So season's over.
It is. It ended the right way, I guess, if you're a Rangers fan, because Ron Washington got a World Series ring, and he did it against the Astros. So, I'm going to pat myself on the back here. I predicted the Braves in 6. I just thought they were the hot team, and they after the trade deadline, they were the best team in baseball, and yeah, they had to come back from below 500, and they didn't clinch the last week, but that division was sneaky good, and so they had some tight games. Their mettle was tested a little bit. Astros, I don't. Just kind of looking at how the playoffs went, I thought maybe they used their bullpen too much and didn't use their starters enough, and maybe it caught up to them there. But glad for Ron Washington, not only Ron Washington, but Chris Martin, Jesse Chavez, Luke Jackson. Drew Smiley's on the team, but we didn't get to know Drew that well. But I know the other three much better, and so congratulations to all of them.
We talked about this last week. We went into the whole deal with the winter calendar and how this is going to go. It's officially done now. So it didn't go to the 4th. 4th is today. That this ended yesterday. Everyone's free agents. CBA, that seems to be the talk of everybody. If that gets done before, so when does that exactly expire?
It's at midnight going into December 2nd. So I don't know. I'm not a time expert, so I don't know if that's midnight on the 1st or if that's midnight on the 2nd or what. But that's the deal. And they, I wrote this today, and I've written it several times, and it's been told to me several times that in baseball, whenever there's a deadline, trade deadline, non-tender deadline, any kind of deadline,
I read this today,
down to the very last minute.
Always,
it never fails. Yep. And so I think that enough traction can be made. I mean, even if there's not a deal, if there's headway toward a deal, and it's going to get done in a matter of days, after the deadline passes, they can avoid a lockout. I think that happened maybe 2 times ago. But the reports are that they're far apart right now, but it's also the initial offer. So of course they're going to be far apart.
Yeah.
And I think that as we get closer and closer, and they realize that a lockout or work stoppage isn't good for a sport that's seen its popularity wane. I think that especially in the backdrop of an off season, we're going to be talking about maybe $300 million contracts going to some guys.
Yeah.
I just think it's an eyesore, and they had enough of that during the COVID squabble. When to start the season and when not to. So hopefully that'll get done.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they will work it out. And as somebody that deals in my day job that works with contracts and everything else, when you're not bidding against anybody else, it's just 2 parties that are bidding. Why not kick the tires and see where it's at? So the offers aren't going to be far apart right now. You just want to see what the response is. Nothing else. You still got a lot of time to negotiate here. So that's why. Okay, now listen. That's why I think they're far apart. But yeah, I keep hearing. There seems to be some talk. You hear some saying that possibly there's going to be a lockout. Then some. You seem to be a little more on the optimistic side, that you think they'll get closer together when we get there. In the best interest of baseball, I sure hope they don't have a work stoppage. I think that would look bad right now.
Yeah, and the whole, it was great that they came back last year and played a truncated season. But if they had been a little more cooperative with each other, then this thing would have gotten done, and they would have played more than 60 games. And there's the squabble over the union filed a grievance and all that stuff, and so there was definitely some bad blood on both sides. But ultimately they did play, and that was what was best for the game. And a work stoppage. I know there aren't games going on right now, but I tell you what, people follow the heck out of this off season, and
Yeah.
it's a big time for baseball. And so I just think that stopping a work stop is just not I don't think it's ever in any sport in any sense a good thing.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay. I didn't even think, because this could possibly be the Rangers. So when a team makes a qualifying offer to someone, the player declines the qualifying offer, which means there is a draft pick attached to him if he signs with another team. It's not the first pick. It's always your second pick, right? The second pick that goes.
That's right. And there might be some flexibility depending on the size of the contract, but yeah, you don't lose. First round picks are protected, or your first round pick. Like if you're a team that has multiple picks, then it would be the second first round pick would be your second highest pick, and that's the one that would go. But yeah, that's it. And for qualifying offers, players who were traded, who are going to be free agents, cannot receive
Chris Bryant, who there's no qualifying offer.
And then guys who have received a qualifying offer previously, like Marcus Stroman, they're not allowed to receive another qualifying offer. So there are some guys out there who teams can sign without having to forfeit a pick.
Okay, so here's my question. So there's a lot of guys that are going to get qualifying offers, a lot of the guys that the Rangers are targeting. If the Rangers sign two guys that get qualifying offers, who gets what? Is it second and third round? How does that go? I mean, I don't know.
It is. It's the third highest pick, and so forth and so on. That's why, it kind of makes sense for them to sign a guy like Bryant.
Right.
Javier Baez, another guy who wouldn't cost the Rangers a draft pick. They are still they're retooling. I guess they're not rebuilding anymore. They think they're on their way up, but they have the number 3 overall pick in every round. So those are big picks. You can get really, really good players at those spots. So they don't want to sacrifice too many of those.
Right.
So I think one they'd be willing to part with, but
you don't think a second one's coming. Okay.
Yeah. It seems kind of hard to stomach, and just knowing the way the game has trended, teams have not wanted to surrender these draft picks.
Well, I'll tell you what, there were 3 names that came out today that are now free agents. One of them's Castellanos, Kikuchi from Seattle, who declined that option. That floored me. He didn't have the greatest second half of the year, but and Alvacel Garcia from the Brewers. I think he had an option too, right? And he declined it.
Yes.
Yeah. So those are names. I know Castellanos is a name for sure that there was some. You said the Rangers had interest in him before.
Yeah, back in 2019, he and Chris Woodward seemed to really hit it off, and it came down to money, of course, and the Reds offered more than the Rangers did, and I'm not sure it was ever that close, but there's a history there, and apparently he and Woodward hit it off, and he wanted to come. It just didn't work out. Now he's declined he's opted out, making him a free agent, but he's going to get a qualifying offer. But that's a guy to look for. Now, you look at a season, it was great. Hitter's Ballpark. He would be coming to a new league, and which he's played in before, but still, I don't know. If you're going to surrender a pick for somebody, I think you can surrender it on somebody a little bit better than Nick Castellanos. And but we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out.
I didn't realize that. Because he opted out because he had 2 years remaining at $34 million, and he opted. Right. I didn't realize they could put a qualifying offer out. I didn't know that. Yes. Yeah, that's less likely then, because it seems like if you're going to give a draft pick, it's going to be for one of those shortstops.
I would think so. And again, Baez of the 5 is the one who was traded during the season. And the way it's been explained to me by a Rangers official is a team isn't going to be disappointed to get one of the 5 shortstops. They're all very good players who are going to make a difference. And, if let's say the Rangers are targeting Corey Seager and they end up with Trevor Story, there's not that big a difference, and they're not going to be like, oh, our offseason's ruined. They're definitely going to be a better team with
Right.
any of those 5 guys.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. What about Avisal Garcia? You got any interest in him?
He's I don't have interest in him.
This is like his best year, right? I mean, he's been okay, but this was his
best year
year.
in a long time. He's kind of been up and down, and then from team to team. He came up with the White Sox, I think, or maybe it was the Tigers, and he got traded to the White Sox. I don't recall right off the top of my head, but I think he's 33. He's a little bit older.
I think he's 30.
I don't think he's the guy. I think the Rangers can do better than that.
Chris Bryant, right? That's
Yeah,
because
I mean,
if Chris Bryant comes here, I think
sense.
Chris Bryant's either a first baseman or a left fielder.
It makes a lot of sense. He can play all over. He won't cost you a draft pick. He's still pretty young considering how long he's been around.
Yeah.
I just think that his agent is Scott Boras, which the Rangers have dealt with Boras plenty.
Yeah.
I think that's not a terrible way to go. I really think.
Well, your story kind of alluded to
the Rangers.
Your prediction story, and I'm not going to say who your prediction story was. You had 2 good names on there that we've talked about a lot, because you need to go buy it and read it. But okay, I wanted to go in. You and I were there last Friday night. That was kind of the big of the 4 little games that the Fallen Strucks teams. TCU was the one where the 2 big name pitchers went, and we saw who we've had on here, Ricky Vanasco. We also saw TK Roby. What did you think? I mean, of course, that first inning was horrible for Ricky, but hey, nobody got a hit off of him. He just couldn't get any control.
Right. He had wanted to see how he would respond to pitching in front of fans and pitching at night under the lights, actually having some adrenaline and having to deal with it. And the first inning he was too fired up. He even said it, and he couldn't get a rhythm. He was fine in the bullpen, but then you hit the mound and it's different because there's people there and batters in the box, and it wasn't good. He the inning, they didn't complete the inning. The Rangers rolled the inning.
Right.
He committed an error. He should have gotten an out, but the second inning he came back and just dominated. It's what people
hear about him.
Want to see, and what you hear about exactly. And so I think he heads into the offseason on a good note. And then Roby was fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't even think he threw 25 pitches over 2 innings, and throws strikes. He also was as advertised. The concern with him is the elbow, which did not require surgery, going to hold together. And there's always a risk there. You always are concerned, but he went through a very deliberate rehab process. He saw multiple doctors. They both came to the same conclusion that he didn't need surgery. So the hope is that he's got young ligaments and they heal fast, and they did. Hopefully they stay that way, because he's a guy that could maybe not move quickly, but he's only 19, and the Rangers might be able to step on the gas with him a little bit next year.
Just another arm just down there. And let's explain for rollover, if you don't know what they did when they say rolling the inning. It's very simple. When they're doing these exhibition games, they have pitchers lined up to pitch 2 innings. I mean, it's very regimented what they want to do. If a pitcher gets in trouble, either team has the right to just stop the inning. If there's so many pitches and they know they want to give them 1 more inning, they can just say, hey, we're rolling it. They're going to stop everything. Everyone's going to clear the field. Other team will come out. So that's why no matter what those scores are, you got to ignore it, because they rolled the inning. So that's what that's about.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, TCU probably would have scored more than 1 had the inning continued, but
sure.
Again, we've talked about it probably each of the last few episodes. The Rangers have pitching in the minor leagues, and then it's
so strange.
It's been a long time. Maybe this is a unprecedented level of pitching depth that they have. Something we can run past Chris Young, but it is unusual, and it's something to talk about, just because it just hasn't happened.
I know it, and you know it by covering them since 2008. I've been a fan since '74. You just never hear about this much pitching in the minor league system. They've never been this deep, all the way down. I mean, it's great. Okay, Melvin, this surprised me. Melvin goes and signs with the Padres, the new manager of the Padres, kind of hinting to the fact that maybe Oakland's going to start a teardown. That's going to put Chapman and Olson. They might be people that could be traded for. I don't think Chapman would be anything the Rangers would be interested in, especially with Josh Young coming up. Does Olson interest you?
He should interest every team. I mean, he's one of the best first basemen in baseball.
Only 30 years old. I think he's only 30 years old.
He's young. He's still in arbitration. So I mean, he tailed off. He's younger than 30. But he tailed off a little bit this year, but still had, I think, 39 home runs. You know, I mean, he is a complete player, and you know, Gold Glove winner, Gold Glove finalist this year. So yeah, I mean, it would be a significant addition, but it would cost a significant amount of prospects. But I'm sure they can find a way to work through it. The A's farm system's horrendous. So any really a top, you know, let's say a prospect from 10 to 20 in the Rangers system would probably be a top 10 prospect in the A's system. So there are ways to perhaps make a deal like that without having to surrender a name, a guy that you would like to see in a Rangers uniform. But you know, the problem is there's going to be 29 teams that probably want to take a shot for Greg Olson. And you know, he's entering his second year of arbitration. It's going to be 10 or 11 million, not a massive number. It'll get big next year. So I think if you acquire him, you absolutely immediately
start trying to extend
push the button on an extension and try to get that done. You know, it's pretty interesting that, you know, you're right. Letting Bob Melvin go, they must have said, hey, this is what you got to look forward to. You know, it creates an opening for Ron Washington, honestly. Just with his ties to Oakland, and you know, it'd be, if they go into this rebuild, it would be a young team that Wash could get the most out of. And you know, Washington's a great coach, so there's a fit there. But you know, it's the A's have a lot of arbitration eligible players who are potentially going to be available. And you know, Sean Manaea off the top of my head is one of them. But they have a couple starters, so we'll see what happens. But it's something to keep an eye on for sure.
And Bean's done this so many times where he'll just have that year or two where they dip, and then all of a sudden they're right back in it. That small ball thing they play, or what do you call it? The
money ball
that they play. Olson would interest me, and you would think going back, it would be obvious that Nate Lowe would probably start the deal going back, because they would need a first baseman and a major league ready first baseman. But yeah, dipping into the prospects, the Rangers are deep, but yeah, I don't think you're going to be talking guys that we haven't heard of. These are going to be somebody we know that that's going to have to be in that deal. Billy Bean's not stupid.
Right. And, you know, they've done Oakland does a great job identifying players and turning them into good major leaguers. They really do. And I don't know what it would take. You know, trades have changed in recent years. I mean, you look at San Diego getting you Darvish, and I don't even know if they got rid of a top 10 prospect, or maybe it was just one. It's been kind of a quantity over quality thing, you know. And you look at what the Yankees did to get Joey Gallo. They traded 4 prospects, but none of them were in the Yankees top 10. But 2 of them, Duran and Smith, became Rangers top 10 picks. So there are ways to do it, and you know, you don't know what other teams like and how they evaluate players. So anyway, that's putting the cart before the horse, but it is something that the Rangers should look at if they have this money and want to get better. And Greg Olson's Matt Olson's available, you go do it.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, that's all I had. Anything else you had before we get Chris on here?
Well, no, I am excited though. You know, we've gotten through the World Series, and we've been talking about free agents so much and trades and all this stuff. Well, it's about to happen.
Now it's here. Yeah.
And the thing is, you know, it's not going to go fast. It's not a fast process. You know, and you know, even if there's not a work stoppage, it takes a while.
Yeah.
You want to see players want to see markets develop. Now, if somebody just comes in and hits them over the head with a suitcase full of cash, they're going to sign. But
Yeah.
I'm pretty eager to see how it plays out for the Rangers, obviously, because that's my day job. But also just to see who goes where and what the teams who lose players look like. What's Houston going to look like if they don't re-sign Correa? I don't think they're going to. I think Verlander, who didn't pitch for him at all this year, I think he's a free agent too. So
Right.
they're going to look different. It's just every year, once the dust settles, things have been shaken up, and I think this year there's a chance it could be pretty significant in the AL West.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you know what? People want to hear what Chris Young has to say. This is great that he's coming on this. So let's go to Chris Young right now. All right. And joining us now from out in his office at Globe Life Field is Texas Rangers General Manager Chris Young. Chris, thanks so much for stopping down and coming on with us today.
No, thanks for having me, guys. Happy to be with you.
Yeah, I've been trying to get you, and you're a busy man. It's got to be exciting. It's a good busy.
No, it is, Jeff. It has been a good busy. It's been, the first calendar year. So much of it has been new to me. That said, I think it's made the year go fast, and never quite knowing what to expect with every month. But nonetheless, here we are, kind of 11 months in for me, and certainly have seen most aspects of the job at this point, and it's been very, very exciting and enjoyable, and I've learned a ton.
Well, good. I just said this before you came on. I'm pretty excited. The World Series is over. We're in that 5-day window, and then all hell's going to break loose potentially. And I know it goes slow, but still, you're gonna get. This is going to be a busy offseason for the Rangers, and it's about to get going.
Yeah, that's I'm excited for it as well. I think that we have a lot to look forward to. I think that we've got some really creative opportunities here to improve our club and give our fans a reason to get excited. And certainly, we're looking forward to it. How that's going to play out, it's still to be determined. But yes, it's we're close to the starting point right now, and excited to get going here.
All right, so yeah, you started December 4th last year, I think. Kind of weird because we're in the middle of COVID. It was before the vaccine, as before anybody knew what was going on. So I don't want to say you're a stranger, but I don't know that you've had a chance to maybe get out and be as visible as you'd want to be. How has that affected things, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly has impacted the ability. I think in certain ways it's impacted the ability to be in person and establish personal connections and relationships. I think in other ways it's connected us in different ways electronically, similar to what we're doing right now. So, I think Zoom is a tool that we probably haven't utilized in the past to the extent that we can to keep each other connected. And I think it's something moving forward that we'll be able to. But yes, I love being out in the field. I love being around and getting to know our personnel, our players, our staff. I think as we return to sort of a more normal lifestyle, I'll be able to do more of that. And I enjoy it. I look forward to it.
So the ledger will show forever that your first season was 102 losses.
Congratulations.
What are the positives that came out of the 2021 season?
Well, I think that there were several. First and foremost, that it's behind us. I think it's it was the roughest year we're going to have. I think it was expected to a degree, and even though it was expected, it did not make it easy. It certainly was painful. Every single loss, as they piled up, stretches where we lost 10, 12 games in a row. It was really, really tough. And, knowing that is hopefully behind us, that we have good times to look forward to, that it's going to get better from here. That first and foremost, I think is something that is a positive, that it's just the worst is over. I think we had two main goals going into the season. The first of which was to reestablish our culture, our identity, what we're about. I think that Woody and our major league coaches did a great job really committing to that and reestablishing that. I think that our players were terrific. We lost 102 games, but our players did not quit. They did not give in. They fought. They played hard. They played the game the right way. We were just out-talented to an extent. And certainly, as we expect to add more talent, we continue to play the game that way, play the game the right way. The wins will happen, and I'm very confident in that. Thirdly, I think that we found out about some of our core players moving forward. We kind of got a peek at some of the guys who are going to be part of this years to come, and we're excited about the future there. And I think we've got a lot of work to do in adding to some of those players, but certainly we saw some positive things and good seasons from young players who got opportunities who may not otherwise would have had those opportunities without the commitment to this rebuild.
Yeah, the culture thing and the playing hard. I mean, that's something you've harped on. And John and I say it every episode when we talk about minor leaguers, about what just unbelievable like kids these are. Like, they're mature.
Yeah.
They get it. It just seems like, I'm just overwhelmed by it. Like the Jack Leiter press conference just knocked my doors off. I couldn't fathom being that composed at his age. So what is it about the character that you think is so essential? Was there a team that you were on that you're like, this is how baseball should be?
Yeah, Jeff, I mean, it's really not just even a professional team. It's kind of going back to, all good teams that I've been part of, whether it was in high school, college, minor leagues, and then into the professional ranks. There were certain similarities and traits that those teams exhibited, and that was, really a respect for each other, a respect for the game, and playing the game the right way. And I'm a firm believer in that. And it's up to us to choose the right personnel who embody those traits, but also to create an environment and expectation to set really, really high standards for everybody. That mediocrity is not acceptable. We are here to really be part of something special, to build something special. And I understand it's hard for fans to understand that when we've lost 102 games, but nobody here was satisfied with the results, and our players weren't satisfied. So as we continue to foster that environment, to the contrary, I've been on other teams, especially professionally, that were, that were under 500, and there was a complacency. There was a satisfaction with being, just, hey, it's okay. We're in the big leagues. It's all right. And that's the difference between good organizations and ones that, really can't climb out of these things. So setting those high standards and reestablishing who we are and what we're about and how we go about it. I was very, very pleased with our group despite the losses.
Yeah, the one thing I think the analytics era has brought on is that, at least in my opinion, is that people think players are in a vacuum, and that you can drop any player in any situation, and that chemistry gets disregarded. And I as a player, I'd assume that you can't not have a good chemistry. The whole thing won't work.
Jeff, you're preaching to the choir. I mean, I just, especially in baseball, I have a theory that chemistry in baseball is maybe more important than chemistry in any other sport. And the reason is that our players spend so much time together. I mean, you've seen the lifestyle. You understand that these guys show up at noon or 1 o'clock and they're here till after midnight. And they're in and around each other for 12 hours a day. They're on the team plane. They see each other every day. And if you don't have a group that really gets along, that cares for one another, if you have guys who really don't fit in or distractions, they take away from the environment. The players instead start focusing on what those guys are doing instead of what they need to do to be prepared that night. But when you have a group that really understands what the expectation is, how to go about it on a daily basis, how to put the team first and create that culture where it's about the team and it's not about the individual, it goes a long way. And I think we saw that a little bit with Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta just won the World Series, and you talk about, they just had some, a magical run that came together at the right time. And I think it's a perfect example. I felt that way in Kansas City in 2015 when we won the World Series. We were not the most talented team, but we were the best team. We were the team that played the game the right way, that fought for one another, that were inspired on a daily basis by one another. And that's what we're trying to create. And you're right, that's really hard to quantify, but it's also what makes it great and why I want us to create that type of environment with our group.
Yeah, and that's not just the players; it's the coaches as well. And you guys just made a pretty significant hire on the bench coach with Donnie Eckert. I just wanted to get your thoughts on kind of how he fits into that, but also what he's an offensive guy, but he's also going to be Chris Woodward's right hand man, and they need to mesh. And I just wondered what your thoughts are on how that's going to look.
You know, the bench coach, he's an extension of Chris Woodward in terms of establishing, setting high standards and expectations, holding people accountable, really being Woody's eyes and ears on a daily basis. And then on top of that, what he brings in terms of our offensive game planning and the ability to impact the game and the preparation and prepare our players to win on a nightly basis, how we're going to compete, how we're going to go out and offensively attack the other team. So, you know, I think it's a great addition to our club. I think he matches all of our values, and I'm really, really excited that he's now a part of our group. I think he's going to make each one of us better, myself included.
I wasn't there for the press conference when Donnie came in. Was Chris a part of that? I'm assuming. Obviously, this is his bench coach. How much was he a part of that?
Oh yeah, Woody was a part of the whole decision-making process. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story about we were in our pro scout meetings a couple weeks ago in Arizona, and we meet all day long, and Woody was seated next to me. And for our afternoon session, Woody disappeared for about 3 hours. And, you know, Woody lives in Arizona. So I'm sitting there thinking, where did Woody go? Did he go home? Where, you know, how could he be gone this long? What's going on? We're having important discussions about our personnel decisions for next season. We need our big league manager here. And finally, he comes back in and he whispers, I was on the phone with Donnie. And so Woody had spent 3 hours on a call with Donnie. It was not an interview at that point. It was simply we had permission to speak with him, and Woody was introducing himself, and they spent 3 hours connecting. And I knew right then, like, that was a pretty good sign, and was really, really excited to debrief. I talked to Donnie later that night, and we spent over an hour just doing the same thing. We didn't even talk baseball. We talked life, and it was such an instant connection. And I knew immediately he fit what we're trying to do here. And that's, that's in part why we're really excited about him.
Jeff?
I'm back. It's been a heck of a technology day at the Wilson residence. We had a 2 hours without power, and then this. So I'm on my phone, which kind of changes the angle and everything. But that's cool.
Well, we can still see your Masters flag in the background.
Yeah,
well, that's what's most important. Me and Ben Hogan back there. So what's the timeline on the hitting coach and the assistant hitting coach?
Yeah, we're in the process right now. We've interviewed several candidates. We're continuing to interview several more, and we're hoping that in the next, really week to 10 days that we can have that wrapped up and have some clarity as to our big league staff for the 2022 season.
Are there internal candidates who are candidates?
We have talked to internal candidates, but at this point we're focused on the external candidates. But certainly yes, there have been.
Yeah. Well, there is value in continuity, and what Donnie's going to do as the offensive coordinator, from what we're told, is going to trickle down. And Cody Atkinson, who I know a lot of prospects are very high on, if he's given the message, I think it helps out throughout the system. So I can understand that, but it's important to have the same message filter throughout, is it not?
Yeah, Jeff, you're absolutely right. We are very focused on that element of continuity and creating consistent messaging throughout our entire organization. I think that's something that we certainly want to improve, both on the offensive and defensive sides, of having the same philosophies. I think we've done it a little bit better on the pitching side than the hitting, but I think this presents a great opportunity for us to create even better continuity on the hitting side, from the major leagues throughout our entire system.
It seems like there's a much more emphasis on getting the message to the players, because the message has changed so much. It just seems like maybe that wasn't happening, and now it has to happen, and that you have to have guys who understand the message to give it to the players.
Yeah, look, I think there's a number of reasons for this. I think that as you look at kind of our industry on the whole, pitching has probably outpaced hitting in terms of the advancements, the improvements, both technologically and in terms of the performance. I mean, and so I think that creating that continuity and finding ways to message different things, and then also there's a game planning element to it as well. So getting everybody on the same page, as both individually, this is what you're trying to do, and collectively, this is what we are trying to do on a nightly basis to win the game. I think that's really, really key. I think that's one of the areas Donnie really excelled, and I'm looking forward to implementing, having him implement a lot of that here. I think that's it's so important that each player understands who they are and what their strengths are and what they have to do when they step in the batter's box. But likewise, as an offense collectively, how we strategically are going to beat the opposing pitcher.
All right, I'm going to get out of the way here. That's all the baseball I've got. I'm standing by, but
All right.
John's going to get us on the lighter side here.
Yeah. Mine's more fun. I like to talk more about you, Chris, and your career and everything. Yeah. But I got to ask this, because there's actually a something you may remember this. You're not going to remember me, but remember this. First of all, Stafford and Kershaw, they're younger than you, right?
Correct.
How were they in high school at all with you? Were you like a senior and they were in freshman, or?
No, I was 8 years older. So I hate to say that I was in high school and they were in elementary school, but
did you know their families or anything? Highland Park's a little tight.
Yeah, I'm very close with Clayton. Do not know Stafford at all, but very, very close with Clayton. Know he and his wife Ellen and their family, and they live not far from us, and see him frequently.
Okay. Well, the reason I do remember one time when the year Stafford took them to the state championship, I went out to watch Stafford play Stephenville and you were there.
Yes.
They were playing Stephenville up in Denton.
That's right.
You sat one row behind me. I'm short and fat. I hope I didn't get in your way.
I could see over you. Fortunately.
Were you able to get over me? Okay. And see that. So now let me ask you this: basketball and baseball, I read where you had some power and you DH'd. How many home runs did you hit in high school?
I think I only hit one. I was a doubles hitter, John.
Because of speed? You're just a speed.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Okay, now this was interesting to me. I know everybody knows you went to Princeton and you played basketball and baseball. You were the first freshman to win the Ivy League Rookie of the Year for 2 sports, for both basketball and baseball. Was baseball your first love, or was basketball?
Both. I always said baseball sort of chose me. I loved whichever season it was, whichever sport I was playing at the time was my favorite. And and frankly, it was something I did my whole life. I grew up playing both sports. Similar to my kids right now, I knew nothing different. So the idea that you could only play one sport in college, the seasons overlapped a little bit, but really, why? It puzzled me as to why there were limitations there. So, it was one of the main criteria as I came out of high school that I was only going to a school where I could play both sports. I was good enough to play both, and was not going to limit myself. Only when you get to sort of the professional level do the seasons overlap too much, and the talent is so high that I knew I'd have to make a choice.
Well, let me ask you. Go ahead, Jeff.
Did Pete Carell recruit you, or was it Bill Carmody?
It was Bill Carmody. Pete Carell had retired 2 years before I got there. It was Bill Carmody and Jeff. They were coming off a season in which they had gone, I think, 28-1. I think they had only lost one game the year before I got there. They made it to, I think, the Sweet 16, or I anyway, they had a phenomenal year the year before I got there. And so certainly the basketball program was, there was great appeal to go there and be part of a great special program and potentially, play 4 years in the NCAA tournament.
Do you remember the Georgetown Princeton 116 game? It was in the late 80s. Well, no, it was Iverson. So do you remember watching that?
No, it was, I don't think it was Mourning, right? And it was 89.
Okay, yeah.
It was 89 and Mourning had a block shot at the buzzer to seal a Georgetown victory. But I did not remember that. I learned it through Princeton history.
Okay.
But we did play Georgetown my freshman year. And so I remember that Georgetown game. And we beat Georgetown, but nobody cares about that one because it was in the NIT tournament.
Yeah. No, I remember I was in a little Italian restaurant in Denver watching it on a black and white TV. So I remember. Yeah. Anyway,
that's cool. Yeah, that's a special part of Princeton history, and certainly they're that game and the UCLA game when Princeton upset UCLA are very, very memorable in Princeton history.
I've got a story for that one too. I was in Las Vegas, and everybody had the under because it was Princeton, and
Princeton.
The game went to overtime, and it was going to be over and everybody's going to lose their bets. And there's one guy, all the TVs, it was the leg game. So all the TVs were on the Princeton game. And there was a guy, every time they were shooting free throws, he was standing up and trying to distract them, even though they were on TV and thousands of miles away. But that's, those are my two Princeton stories.
That's a great memory. The fact that you can remember that game is pretty impressive, Jeff. That fan specifically.
Well, I probably had the under too, but
Hey, when you came out of college, you were obviously a good athlete. So you said that was the only school that offered you both, said you could play both.
No, that wasn't the only school, but it was a criteria for every school.
Okay. What other schools recruited you? Did you have offers from any Power 5 schools?
Yeah, my top three choices were Princeton, Vanderbilt, and the University of Texas, and was going to play both sports at all three of those. Texas and Vanderbilt were scholarship schools, so basketball would have supplied the scholarship. I would have been a free player for the baseball program.
Right.
But ultimately decided Princeton was the right fit for a number of reasons. The balance between both sports and the academics. The seasons didn't overlap as much either up north. So the Princeton baseball team started a little bit later. I wouldn't miss as much of the baseball season, and just felt like it was a good opportunity to go to an institution that probably would not have otherwise been able to get into if I didn't have basketball and baseball to help me.
I read an interesting thing. So you were drafted in the third round by the Pirates, and you negotiated into your contract before you signed that you were going to be able to finish your degree. Now, did you do your own negotiation, or did you have an agent at the time?
No, I had an agent, but that was also, one of the strict criteria I had to sign professionally is that I would play pro baseball in the summers. And then once the season was over, I'd go back to campus and continue my education to complete my degree. It was very, very important to me that I got my degree, was not walking away from the 2 years I had put into to Princeton academically. And frankly, my expectation when I signed was that I wanted to play professional baseball until I was 40 years old. Right. At that point, hopefully be married with children. And I didn't envision taking them back to a college campus to finish my degree. So I knew I needed to get it done while I was playing.
Well, you did.
Is that the Jack Leiter plan?
It's very similar, Jeff. That was why, as we negotiated with Jack, it was something that I, have lived and done. I knew it can be done. Frankly, as we looked at Jack's workload totals over the course of this past spring and summer, we knew we were going to shut him down. He wasn't going to pitch. So it made perfect sense to allow him to go back to campus and work towards his degree.
So you played 13 years. What was your plan if baseball or pro sports didn't work for you? What were you studying? What were you going to do? Politics?
Well, that's a great question. I never really had a fallback plan. I never knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I loved playing both sports. I wanted to be a professional athlete, and it never really crossed my mind that it may not happen. So, John, I was very, very fortunate that I've been able to live out my dream. I was a politics major, And that was by default more than interest. If I could do it over again, I would have done psychology. It's much more applicable to what I'm doing now. And but in the end, I had to choose something. I quickly realized at Princeton my freshman year, after my first econ exam, that I was not going to be an economics major. That these kids that were, preparing to go to Wall Street were much smarter than me, and they didn't have to study as hard. And so I quickly switched majors. And it was between politics and history, and I chose politics. So, but psychology, if I could do it all over again, would have been my major of choice.
Okay, so this is going to throw everybody for a loop, because it threw me for a loop. I met you first time you came down, and we were given access to the field finally as media. And you came down one day and we talked to you, and you were just so nice as you were. And every time every interaction, this interview now, just what a great guy you are, such a nice guy. Are you and Derek Lee cool now? Or are y'all friends now? I mean, let's go back to June 16th, 2007. You guys had a brawl. That's out of character.
John, if you asked any of my teammates, it was absolutely not out of character. They said I took on a different personality between the lines, and but I will tell you this, to answer your question. Yes, Derek and I are on great terms. He's someone I greatly respect. He had a tremendous career. He was a tremendous person, first and foremost, and but also a great baseball player. And while we don't keep in touch, we did mend the fence over what was a big misunderstanding, and frankly, it was the biggest regret of my career. I look back on that now and think about, I was a young player. I was in an intimidating environment at Wrigley Field. There was a misunderstanding over a hit by pitch. He certainly was upset. I felt like he didn't have, he was, I didn't understand why he was upset. And I felt like I can't back down. I'm sort of a alpha male type mentality in a competitive environment. And, it led to a brawl. Fortunately, neither one of us landed punches. He threw a great right that just missed me, and then I responded with one that just missed him. Fortunately, we got separated. But truly, he did actually something really, really touching the next year. It speaks a lot to his character. I had gotten hit in the face with a line drive. And it was by Albert Pujols and the St. Louis Cardinals. The next series, the Cubs came in town, and he sought me out to check in, see how I was doing. It really was touching. It meant a lot, and I'll never forget it. It speaks to sort of his character and who he is. And, ultimately, these things happen in the heat of competition, but I do regret it, especially now that my kids can Google it. I get often asked to sign the photo. I never signed it, never once signed it, because I didn't want to be disrespectful to Derek. I just didn't. So I've never autographed that picture and never will.
Well, that's it. It's a great segue into your family that we're going to end it on. First of all, you know what, Jeff, you and I were pondering this. The night at DBU, your son was there.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. Playing with when I caught you there when I was leaving. How old is he?
He's 9 years old. Yeah. He looks like he's 13, but he's 9.
Because Henry's there, and he's what? How old's Henry?
9. Yeah, my son's there. He was 9.
I don't know where your son gets his height from, but no, I'm kidding. But I was asking Jeff, I go, you think he's the same age as Henry? He goes, no, he's got to be 12 or 13.
So Grant, that was Grant, my youngest. Grant is, he's my little guy, and he's got all of Dad's worst qualities, which may serve him well later in life, but he is a challenge. I brought him to the game thinking we'd sit in the stands and watch the game. And as soon as he saw the grassy area down to the right, he immediately knew, okay, there's a spot for Dad and I to play. And actually it's the beauty of what I do, is that he doesn't view Dad as having a cool job because he's the general manager of the Texas Rangers. Dad is cool because we can go to fields and play together. And that's what I love about it. So it makes it special, but it's also hard when he's telling me what to do. He's very passionate, and he's telling me, Dad, don't even think about trading Joey Gallo. So he loves these guys, and he's as invested as anybody in this team. But it's been a lot of fun for me and my family, and I think for my wife too, despite the 102 losses.
Well, and that's what I wanted to end on was your wife. If am I hearing this right? Your wife's from a hockey family, right? Is that right?
My wife comes from a hockey family. She's long history of hockey tradition in her family. In fact, I think she has 4 family members in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So,
Holy moly.
yeah, her maiden name is Patrick,
Right.
as in the Patrick Division, formerly of the NHL Patrick Division. So she is she didn't know much about baseball when we first started dating, but now she's more versed in baseball than she is hockey.
That's good. So are you a big hockey fan now? I mean,
Wow,
obviously
that's
is your
tremendous.
father-in-law still involved?
My father-in-law is the president of the Washington Capitals, and he's been there since 1982. He may be at this point the longest standing executive in sports. On the hockey ops side, it's pretty remarkable. He's had a tremendous, distinguished career. Highlighted by winning the Stanley Cup in 2018, and
Right.
it's really, I'm very fortunate to have him as sort of a mentor to me in terms of the sports world and giving me advice on, all the ups and downs.
So you got to lift the cup.
I did. I was very conscientious. I didn't feel like I had earned the right to touch the Stanley Cup, but certainly really, really was special to see, him and his life's work getting that opportunity. It was really neat. And I hope
awesome.
that, I hope to have the same experience as a Texas Ranger and seeing our team and our fans holding the World Series trophy. It's going to be very special when it happens.
I
And it's
agree.
going to happen.
Yeah, I think so. And they're on the right track for sure, especially the minor league system right now is at the top of where it's been in a long, long time. And so I'm telling you, the depth in pitching, we talked about that, Jeff, good Lord, it's just crazy how good the pitching is. Well, Chris, I think we have kept you long enough, and you came on here and the hard hitting questions about fighting and hockey.
The hardest hitting question was Jeff when he brought up my first year record here. I've got a lot of work
Hey.
to get over 500. So I'm gonna remember that, Jeff.
I hope you do.
Well, guys, that's Chris Young, the general manager of the Texas Rangers. Chris, thanks so much for taking your time out of your day to do this, and we will see you out at the yard there.
Guys, thanks so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
All right.
All right, man. Appreciate you. See you soon.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. See ya.
All right.
All right.
All right, guys. That was Chris. Jeff, fantastic. What a great time.
Yeah.
I mean, he was engaging. I'm telling you, I can't even imagine it in my head that guy got in a brawl with somebody. I mean, I get, you talk about competitive juices, you get on the field and the competitive juices come on and do that. I just, but I've talked to him a couple of times. I couldn't imagine it.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of parallels, it sounds like, between him and Jack Leiter. Obviously not the height, but intelligence factor. And it sounds like Jack Leiter, when he is on the field, is an amazing competitor. And, there are guys that have that. And I think that's one of the things that stands out about Ricky Vanasco and Cole Winn. They're guys that get out there and are absolute bulldogs and want to destroy the other hitter.
Yeah.
And it's an intense deal. The pitcher controls the game. The pitcher is the guy, and they're not just throwing it up there. They want to win, and I think that's pretty cool. And if you're going to be in the majors for 13 years, you have to have that.
Yeah, exactly. Because he wasn't one of the hardest throwers. He threw in the low to, the low 90s, just had pure control on the field and was a bulldog out there. And you look at his overall record, as good as ERAs in the threes. This guy, 13
He's
year
a good
career.
player.
Yeah, that's a good player. Well, no matter what you say. Well, Jeff, I think that's it. You're the technical difficulties.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I know, guys. We apologize for that. Jeff had a power outage at the house, trying to get all lined up there, but it actually came across very well for what you were dealing with earlier.
Yeah, I'm
before we
looking
came-
forward to hearing his answer about Donnie Eckert. I really am.
It was good. So yeah, do it to me. Well, that's it, guys. We want to thank Chris Young for joining us. Jeff, once again, you've got to call someone right now because you got something coming up that's going to be pretty good. But anything else?
Yeah. No, just, jeffwilson.substack.com, $60 a year, $5.99 a month.
Yep.
There will very soon, assuming I'm able to make this next connection, a story. I'm going to talk to Ron Washington and about the week he's had and the journey he's been on and what might be next. So
he did something right.
Look for that in the coming days. But yeah, I got to call him right now, as a matter of fact. So, John, we're out of here.
We're out of here, guys. And guys, thanks to Jeff. Don't forget jeffwilson.substack.com. Besides that, we'll see you at the yard.